Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu salam ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Halid salam bikum. Anzurama, my Fulbe community. And today, brothers and sisters, I will be finishing up on the current crisis and give recommendations. And I've been embarked on a series talking about the Sahel region, which I will continue with the help of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. But let me give you my proper felicitations. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Lil ikwani wati fi din. Salamu ala mani taba huda. Lil ikwani wati fi Africa, Europa, America, Caribbean, wa kuli makan. My dear brothers and sisters, you notice the caption. I talked about the Futafula, my community, and its survival in a hostile Sahel and Savanna regions. And we are in a tenuous situation where we have multi forces against us. You notice the last couple of weeks I've exposed the hypocrisy of the media. I exposed yesterday the hypocrisy of the UN. And now I'm going to talk about some of the things, especially like in Nigeria. And I'm going to talk about the rest of the Sahel region and about the Futafula and what can we do and how are we supposed to handle this. And then I'll give you my recommendations that could quell the violence in the Sahel and Savanna region. What's important, brothers and sisters, is that we have to always realize that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is the master and the knower of all things. And we always have to keep that in mind. And the Muslims are well aware of that. And we have to always ask Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for the best. And we have to follow up that request with rightful actions according to his rules and laws, not the laws of others, but his rules and laws. And we have to be always mindful of that. And so I will talk today, inshallah, here about Salaam alaikum, my dear brother, Diallo Salam Anjarama. Salaam alaikum, my dear brother, Quad Almighty. Salaam alaikum. The situation in the Sahel region, as you heard me for weeks now, is in such a dire mess. And we can't seem to get the right information from reliable sources. We have hotbeds now of activity. Of course, Sudan, you heard me talk about for weeks. And yesterday, I again talked about Sudan. And then we have, to the west of it, we have Burkina Faso, where we're starting to find mass graves. And those mass graves are full with our brothers and sisters and our children, the Fulani. And so with that said, we have to always be cognizant, brothers and sisters, that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has his plan, and he will carry out his plan. And he has told us that he will always bring forth people that will carry on the religion. Even if there's weakness around in the world, there will always be set of some people that will carry the banner of Islam, and it will carry it fundamentally according to his Sharia. So this is something that we have to always be mindful of. In Nigeria, and the Futafula community has many enemies. And again, if you understood what I was talking about before, the Fula community have had emirates, sultanates, stretching way back, going even back to Morocco, back to the 10th century. And we've always had sultanates, and we've had many ethnic groups that come under our sultanates and emirates. And this is the problem that we see today, because those memories, even though those people weren't born at that time, but there's been information handed down about that situation. In Nigeria, in particular, there's a group, a de facto group called the Eastern Security Network. And they're allegedly commissioned to fight bandits and herdsmen, and are sanctioned by the governors in the north and the southern part of Nigeria. However, as you heard me talk about this, which is very interesting, it's the same game plan. They're commissioned to attack those who they claim to be criminals, but they kill innocent Fulani individuals, those who are easy to kill. A herdsman he's now making his annual trek, maybe going east where the rainfalls come. He knows that area now is full of grazing grass and water holes are full now. He knows that. So they go to attack them and kill them. And they have become very violent. And they're taking the lives of many Fula herdsmen, innocent, like the pictures I showed you, and then steal their cattle. Then, as I told you before, to add to this, the politicians in Nigeria in particular, but across the Sahel region, are echoing the same thought as you heard me talk about yesterday, where the politicians have noted that they believe that the soldiers, the mujahideen of the herdsmen, are now the new soldiers of the caliphate of Usman Dan Fodio. And they are wrong in one sense, is that we do not know if it's this time now. I don't believe it is, because there's other things that have to happen, because our Prophet ﷺ gave us direction in this regard. So they believe this, giving impetus to arm this de facto group to kill all Fulani people, even though they said they're there to target the herdsmen and the bandits, but the most of the people who they kill are innocent Fulani people. And this is wrong. Adding again, another impetus is non-Fulani groups lump Boko Haram with the Fulani herdsmen. This in itself too is not right, but it's the catch-all, like they do in the United States. When one Muslim does something in, say, New York City, all of the Muslims nationwide are blamed for it. All of them are connected to the crime because of their religion. This is how they feel. So here they have another staunch group who have done things, and they're notorious. We don't have to go about their exploits and what they have done, because it's well documented. But in order to kill the Fulani outright, they lump the two together. Even though, as we speak right now, there is a war going on between the herdsmen, okay, the Mujahideen, Fulani Mujahideen, and Boko Haram. As you heard me talk about last week, the ultimatums that was given to Boko Haram in certain areas, because now they're starting to get surrounded, and the herdsmen, the Mujahideen groups, are targeting them. When they see them, they go to engage them. So they're driving them in a corner and driving them out. See, so they lump them together. That way, when they see a herdsman, they say, okay, I think this is Boko Haram. They go to and kill them. They know that Boko Haram are not managers of cattle. They don't dress this way. They don't have these types of hats and so forth and so on. They know the language that is spoken is, a Fulani dialect, but yet they kill them anyway. So this, again, goes to the situation at hand, why I worry about the survival of my community in the Sahel and Savanna region. The guise used by the West to interdict all Muslims, this is true, brothers and sisters. Every Muslim, even myself, As I told you last week, this guy I know had to be Tuba who threatened to kill me because I'm Fulani. See? And he was trying to say, well, this is what we're going to do to your people there in Burkina Faso, even though 40 to 50%, some say 60% of the country is run now by Fulani, Afro-Arabs, and Afro-Tuareg, as you heard me talk about. He's talking about killing them and then me too. See? So again, I'm not there in the Sahel region. So why is he talking about killing me? You see, this is what I'm talking about, why this situation is exacerbated by the fanaticism of our enemies. They go to kill everybody who's Fulani, claiming they have a justification for it. Calls across the Sahel right now is to finally eliminate the Fulani herdsmen, and this would be disastrous because it'll be an all-out war and he will not be able to win. Because as the West African governments have placed their soldiers in strategic areas, they have not been victorious. They have suffered heavy losses trying to combat these individuals. And since the Fulani herdsmen provide milk, meat, and other products to ever-growing communities, this solution is not right. Brothers and sisters, there's a system in place, and let's look at Nigeria in particular. We have two worlds of life, but they're interconnected and they're brothers, irrespective if they're Christians or Muslims. We have the farmers who produce food, and we all are benefactors of that. I don't care where you live. The farmers, we take their produce and we eat, okay, from them. But also important is the Fulani, because the Fulani provides meat, beef, and milk products and other products, leather and so forth and so on, coming from the cattle. They're both needed in order for us to prosper in general. And when the ecosystem is disturbed, this is detrimental to all of us, because now they're talking about food shortages because of reprisals of the Fulani bandits and herdsmen on many of the farmers. They have left their farms and nobody's manning and tilling their fields. Therefore, there's produce that is not going to reach the market to feed our brothers and sisters in Nigeria. You see what I mean? This is why I say, brothers and sisters, the situation takes on many aspects, and some of it is very tragic. So when there's a move made, we have to think about what is the consequences of that move. When our brothers drive the farmers off that land, nobody goes to till that farmland. When the farmers drive the Fulani herdsmen and their cattle, kill the cattle, okay, and kill the men or drive them off their pastures, the area who were getting their daily milk, okay, and meat products, when they wanted weddings and they slaughter cattle, or they have whatever, some a celebration, they need meat. Now the meat's not there. This is why it's important that we balance things out, and why it's important what you've been hearing me say. Now I'm culminating this and say that we have to bring these brothers to the table. We have to do that. We must reject any calls for any removal or any extermination or genocidal solution for the Fulani people. We have people calling for that because out of fear, they know the history in the Sahel region. They know the history of the Fulani. They know that. Yet and still, they continue to test them, knowing that their jihad is in their blood. When you harm them and you continue to harm them, they take to jihad. And we know that since the 700s. And yet, people seem to forget that. So they go to kill the Fulani outright, and they go to jihad, and everybody complains about that. And so I've been raising my hands to say, brothers, but you're killing them, and you're killing their families, and you so now there's reprisals, And this is why I say, brothers and sisters, again, we have to come to the table, and we have the statesmen to do this. Now, you've seen what has happened in Sudan. I showed you the caliber of persons who the UN brings to mediate between the brothers. It doesn't work like that. They are not equal players. Disingenuous they are, because they don't bring the right people who can solve the problem. They bring racists to come into the situation, put gasoline on the fire to fuel it even more. And the implementation of the solution is being supported under the table. Under the table meaning this: why are they hiring? Why do you think they're hiring Tubop forces to come? To do what? To kill, to exterminate. This is why we're starting to find mass graves, 200 here, 50 here, 70 here, 300 here. They're trying to wipe out the Fulani, period. But publicly, they'll say they're not doing it. But in private, they're funding the groups, like I talk about, the Nigerian de facto Eastern Security Network, which people are now in denial of it because of their ruthlessness. These people are designed to knock out and to exterminate the Fulani, bottom line. And when they were now uncovered, then now many are backtracked, said there's no such group as that, but there is. And so this is why we have to have a talk. And I said yesterday, you heard me say, one of the solutions, we should give immunity. We should give immunity to all the brothers on all sides to bring them to the table. We should not persecute one, okay, and then prosecute the other. We should give everybody immunity. Yes, we know they've raided the village. Yes, they might have killed women and children, but we have to have a turning point where we bring people to the table. If we continue to go to kill the other and persecute them, we can't bring them to the table. You see? And this killings will continue. So when we look at this thing and, the calls across to eliminate the Fulani herdsmen, it would be a disastrous situation, as you heard me say, because you won't be able to do it. Because when you go to exterminate one group of Fulani, what's going to end up happening at this point is they'll call for jihad. And what has happened now, we're starting to see remnants. The Messina group is talking about they've received many from outside their area, okay, of Mali, from all over the place, Fulani fighters. They also commented they were disappointed, but they understood that some of the fighters had returned back to Nigeria to go protect their communities. The Messina group, their spokesman, said this. So we know that the Fulani will go anywhere, everywhere to answer the call of jihad. The Messina group has again proven this. He said, we have Fulani from all over the place coming to join to fight with them. So when you go to and start to exterminate those in northern Nigeria, when someone calls out for jihad, you're going to summons the Messina group to come in. You're going to summons the other groups as well to come in there. So that solution is not viable, brothers and sisters, because again, the reciprocity between the Fulani people is greater than the others. And you heard me talk about that, and I gave you proofs to this. The Messina group just proved it again by the spokesman saying that they have fighters coming from all over the place, from the north, from the east, from the west. See, so that solution of extermination is not going to happen. There'll be a big regional war over that, and Fulani will be coming from the east, west, everything to join in to fight. And you heard what is already said. Messina group says, we want an emirate because they're tired of all of this. So again, we must be mindful that anytime we want to kill off a people, that's bad news. Because you killed women and children too are innocent. That's bad news. And we shouldn't implement such a thing. And this is why we see in these massacres, brothers and sisters, of Fulani, and the Fulani are massacring as well. You go kill some of their people, they go there and kill in retaliation. This is going back and forth. This is why Sheikh Gumi was saying we have to go back to the table and bring these brothers to the table to bring them to the right way to stop this. Now, the criminal Fulani bandits became energized by the aforementioned because they heard of this. They brought in the Eastern network I showed you to kill Fulani, and they were basically killing. Now they have killed some soldiers, okay, Mujahideen, and they killed some bandits. They have done that. They have killed some, but most of their target has been innocent Fulani people. See, so the bandits have been energized since they've seen the brutality from this militia. They themselves became more brutal. So everybody is using the sword as the remedy. You go kill here, you kill 50 Fulani, the herdsmen and the bandits say, okay, we'll kill 50. See, so this is a really, really sad situation. Brothers and sisters, excuse me for a minute. I got to do something here. I got one individual who is Salam alaikum, my dear brother King. I got an individual who is really going crazy. He's sending messages all over the place, trying to disrupt my my program. So I got to go block this guy. I tried to be kind with him today, but he is constantly he's just okay, come on now, I'm sorry, excuse me, because this I have to do this. That's very interesting, very interesting. Okay, here we go. Block user. Okay, now let's see. Because now he's sending messages every 2 minutes. And some of the things he's been saying is outrageous. Very outrageous against Islam, against the Fulani, and whatnot. He was making a suggestion that the Fulani should leave Islam. And that's not going to happen. So, the evidence is becoming clear. Genocidal removal of the Fulani from the Sahel. This is why marauders who killed the Fulani and their kinfolk in droves aren't being punished. Now you think about this. They know who the militia is. They know some of the farmers who killed. They've known that, but they don't punish them. Nor are they given terror designations. But the Fulani who go in retaliation to kill them are given such a thing. And this is, again, if we're going to take this route, we should not punish anybody and we should give immunity. And that way we solve that and then bring everybody to the table. Now, once we get everybody to the table and they break this promise that we have between us to stop, and then someone breaks that promise illegally, meaning they just say, look, I'm going to get up, I'm going to take 50 brothers, we're going to go kill some Hausa. They should be arrested and prosecuted because we try to bring people together and you break this promise, then they have to be dealt with. If the farmers decide, you know what, I see Yahya, I see his clan going across, I can't help it, I want to kill some more, herdsmen, and they go kill my group, you see, then they should be punished for it. But right now we need some talk and some immunity and forgiveness in order to bring everybody to the table and then, get this done. They opt for the solution of arming militias and persecuting the Futafula community, massacres of innocent Fula, bringing in Western security forces. You saw the pictures. This is a disgrace for a black man. As knowing that we have this enemy since the 1400s who have been taking black faces and their children out. And then you hire the same killers of the black race to go kill some more in your homeland. That's not right, brothers. That's not right. You cannot do such a thing. And they're doing it. This is why you see all of the Tubac forces are there. And they're not winning. The Wagner group from Russia, you heard what they said. You followed what they've been talking about the Sahel region. It is a mess. And speaking of, this is not off topic, brothers and sisters. Somebody asked me a question, and I had a discussion with somebody. It was a viable question. He asked me, what's the difference between the Afro-Arabs in Africa and the Afro-Arabs who are in Jazir Arab, which is the Middle East? There's a major difference. Major difference, brothers and sisters. Major difference between the two. They speak Arabic. They're Islamic. They have a long history, Islamic scholarship. But when it comes to war, and I give you an example of this. You remember in Afghanistan, during the time of the Taliban, many of you may not know this, but do your research. This is very interesting. When I uncovered this years back, I was shocked at this. Do you know that there was many brothers that left from the Sahel, okay? Left and from Sudan, modern day Sudan, and went into Afghanistan to fight with the Taliban. I don't know if you guys know about that, but it's true. They had a brigade specially equipped with these fighters from the Sahel region. Why do you think that was? When the Taliban needed a mop-up, meaning they needed close hand-to-hand combat, especially in some of the rural areas where they were helping the Western forces, the Americans and so forth, to kill Taliban. They would send this brigade in to clean up this city. And they were ruthless. And these men were tall, strong, and muscular. Have we heard this before? What did the Viscount say in the 7th century when they first encountered the black man, the Fulani man? They said the same exact thing back in the 700s. The Taliban was well aware of their fighting prowess. They had a brigade of these guys. And when they wanted something, they needed a close combat, they didn't do it. They sent in the brothers from the Sahel to do it. And they cleaned it up. Close combat. This is what they were used for. So I explained to them, this is going on. If you remember with those who read the books of Al-Jahiz, he was in the 8th century. He talked about the prowess of the black fighter. And he mentioned these things as well about the hand-to-hand combat and the physicality of black folks coming out from the region for Africa and into the Jazir, into the Middle East, and their ferociousness in fighting. So this is the difference between us. We have Islam, yes. We have the Prophet of Islam. We have the Sharia law, but we have differences and prowesses as far as fighting goes. And that's how I explained it to this brother who asked this question, which was a good question. So why is the only option of the enemies to find, go after one group and try to create something in between these groups? Like, what I mean by that is we have the Fulani not going anywhere. But then we say, why is the only option of the enemies of the Futafula can find is there's only one ethnic group. And this is the problem. They have forgotten this. One ethnic group with the power to create another emirate. Why are they pushing our community? Why do they continue to push them, knowing since the 700s, their jihad has been very strong? And they continue to push and push and push. This jihad has gotten worse. Those who pushed thought the forces from the Americans and the Europeans would be able to quell and quash and eliminate the Futafula community once and for all. It didn't happen. It got worse. See? So now we have some calling for the emirate. And this is a problem, brothers and sisters, that they have to, we have to come to the table. We must come to the table and discuss these issues and bring the right people so we can discuss it and get this done. Basically, we look at Morocco and to find power behind the Islamic rule. Now, we talk about this because we know that the sultanates from the 10th century, okay, about the 1000s to the present of the 1800s, we know the Fulani element was great in that. Again, we have had these sultanates all over the place in North Africa and West Africa. That's common knowledge. The empire stretching from North Africa to West Africa and across. And this jihad has been massive. Emirates, sultanates, galore, especially from the 1300s to the late 1800s. We had them all over the place. When they lost the emirate, because another group came and defeat them, they came back and defeat them and created another. And we're starting to see this manifest itself now, where we have this talk. It's becoming commonplace, one after another, until 1900s. The Emirates continue on and on. The Fula Emirates continue on and on until the 1900s. Then they were dissolved because the colonial forces defeated, and then they colonized West Africa, and they colonized Africa in general. The ethnic groups across the Sahel and the Savanna region were subject under them. This is why we have enemies, because for all these centuries, they were always subject under the Fulani. And you heard me say, this is payback time now. See, this is the way they look at it. So today, many governors, historians, intellectuals see the Fulani herdsmen rise to power. Brothers and sisters, the Fulani herdsmen came out of nowhere, just like they come out of the Sahara Desert. When they go to attack the enemy, before they look around, they don't see anything. 1 minute later, they find them right on their, right in their face. Here, the Fulani herdsmen rise to power. The Global Terror Index has said they are the fifth group, as you heard me talk about, the fifth most deadliest group. You heard many governors, you heard many politicians talk about from the Sahel and from the Savannah region, how they come in, do what they have to do, and they disappear. So they're very difficult. The Wagner group has echoed the same thing. They've engaged them, and they lost firefights with them. When they go to search them out, they can't find them. Now here is a modern Western, okay, they're not Western, the Russians, okay, Eastern power, a world power, with all the technology, all the GPS and everything, they can't find these brothers. And the Wagner group, the mercenaries from Russia, talk about the difficulties of fighting inside the Sahel region. It's very difficult, brothers and sisters, very difficult. This is not Afghanistan. This is not Iraq or Syria. This is a different ball game altogether. The Sahel region, with encompassing the Sahara, is something else. You heard me say many times, it is absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful. The Sahara is beautiful, but deadly. Deadly. And when you fight in it, you better know your way around it, because the brothers can come out of nowhere and be on you, as the Americans found out in Niger. They can be on you quickly. Ranking them as the fifth most deadliest group in the world today. Now, they consider themselves the protector and the military wing of all the Fulani. As you heard me say, most of the Futafula community are not in support of these groups in public. But as you know what I've told you before here, let me show you the map here. We kind of have some discrepancies here, where we have accounts, live accounts of all these regions here you see here are supporting the herdsmen. So yes, as a general rule, we're not supporting them, but we have some segment of the population are supporting them, and they're running from all over, from the west of Senegal into Guinea, into Mali, all the regions, they're gaining support. So they may say this in public, but in private, many are probably doing that because somebody is supporting them, giving them food, giving them provisions, and so forth and so on, all across the Sahel region. So I don't know how to make that out, but as a rule, as a poll was taken, the Fulani don't support the herdsmen and the bandits in particular. When the Sahelian governments essentially reneged upon this, brothers and sisters. I can't stress more. The grazing homeland is a vital importance to my community. We have been tilling our cattle for centuries upon centuries, for thousands of years, okay? We have been doing that. And when you begin to take that from my community, what happens? You see what has happened now. And you take this area and then you give it to farmers. It's a recipe for disaster, and this is what has happened. These preserves are needed, brothers and sisters, and you see the ecosystem. When the grazing lands are fat, green, luscious, full of water, that meat that we eat from the cattle that we buy from our community is delicious. It's not like in the West where they're full of insecticides, and maybe even in North Africa where they inject them with hormones to make them grow big and to produce milk. We now find much milk now is filled with antibiotics. You drinking the milk because they shoot the cattle with herbs. With antibiotics and so forth to make them grow big, and their meat is not good. We don't have that problem in my community. Those cattle are grazing on grasslands that have been there for thousands of years. And that meat is delicious, and the milk coming from there is delicious. We know that in Nigeria, they can attest to that. This is why I say, brothers and sisters, we have to protect that grazing land, because that meat that comes from that region is something to behold. And the milk coming from there is something to behold. It's not filled with hormones like from the West and so forth and so on, and all type of insecticides and everything like this. They're eating off the Savannah and the Sahara. We got to protect that. Because of this, the Fulani herdsmen said, we're going to create a emirate to protect those grasslands for our herders, so they can have their grazing, and so we can continue to sell that meat and have the milk products, cheese, milk. You may think it's funny and it's immaterial. It is not, because our herders produce a lot of meat, and that meat is sold everywhere. It's sold everywhere across West Africa. Where the Fulani is, where they got the herders there, they are selling that meat and milk, and people depend on that. So we should preserve that. And we lost sight of that. The call and the marginalization of the Fulani herdsmen and kinfolk from northern Senegal to the western region of Sudan. It is the greatest impetus, again, to the jihad. Brothers and sisters, I've been over this to put this ingrained in your head. You understand why there's a jihad. Because you see these things as small as, it's not small, but you think grazing land. People fight over that. That's right. See, so this is a situation where we have to look at this, and we have to protect our community. If we don't protect ourselves, who's going to protect us? We have to protect ourselves. We have to do something. And we're calling on good people everywhere to preserve these grasslands. And we do have good people, and I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a minute. Here we go here. Now, in Nigeria, they've done something that's very interesting that the other West African states and the Sahel states should look at this model. Abuja has allocated 33,000 hectares of land for grazing. See, they understood, except in the north, they haven't quite got it. They're still in the business of exterminating the Fulani, trying to drive them out and move them out and so forth. But down south, they realized they cannot do it. So they allocated these hectares of land. And there's been no jihad. There's been no disturbance from the herdsmen coming in to do what? To fight and kill. No, they don't have that. See? So this is, again, something that is a model that we can use. They quieted themselves. Yes, they came to the South to complain to the government and say, look, you've taken our homeland, you've taken our grasslands from the north. You've done this to us. And they answered the call and said, okay, we're going to have a reserve here of 33,000 hectares of land for grazing. And it quieted the jihad. These group of Fulani brothers are hurting, doing what they're supposed to do. But unfortunately, another segment of the Fulani community is at war because they're trying to drive them off the grazing land. See? The ramifications of the farmland abandonment, brothers and sisters, we have to look at the other side. I'm a Muslim. I have to talk about the other side of this too. Our African brothers, irrespective if they're Hebrews or Christians who own the farmlands, they have to have their way of life protected as well, because just like the meat and milk products that we get from our community, we need the tomatoes, we need the cassava, we need the dashing, we need bananas, we need all this stuff to feed our families. When we destroy the farmland, we destroy a way of life, and the ecosystem becomes out of balance, as we see in the north. We have abandoned farms now. That means people are not going to eat. See, so we have to do something to protect them as well. And our Fulani brothers we have to have patience, not to go so quick. Yes, there's been squabbles, but not to go so quick to drive our farmers, the Hebrews and Christians or whomever who are owning these farms, to drive them out, because they don't get to till their lands. And this is what's happened. They've abandoned their farms to find safety from the herdsmen and the bandits. See, so it's devastating. The shortage of food has been reported since farmers abandoned their farms to seek safety in the cities. It hurts everybody, brothers and sisters. It hurts everybody. So as the same as I'm talking, making an emphasis about the grasslands, we have to protect the farmlands the same way. We have to protect our brothers, and we need good people on both sides to come in and bring this together so we can protect our farmland, so we can have food. We have our milk, we have our meat, we have cheese and all kind of other products coming from my community. And then we have the farmers who are producing the cassava, the dashing, the bananas and so forth and so on, mangoes and all the other things that we eat. We need them as well to keep that system going well all across West Africa. So in essence, the loss of grazing land and farm abandonment has led to the strengthening of the Sahel crisis. It's true, brothers and sisters. We've got to find a solution. We need both in order to feed our Fulani and non-Fulani brethren. We've got to have both of them. We have to have both of them empowered to do what they've been doing for centuries. Farmers, they know the farmland, okay? We know the grazing. We know the milk products. We know our cattle. We love them. This is our wealth. This is our wealth, the cattle. We protect them. We feed them. And so we need that. And then we supply milk and food to our brothers, see? So this is an ecosystem and it's beautiful and it's been working well until the 2000s when this crisis began to erupt. The Islamic insurgents, Mujahideen in particular, and the African Muslims in general, contend democratic governance is an extension of continued Western powers' indirect rule. This is a contention, brothers and sisters, that again, you've been hearing me talk about. Muslims worldwide consider the democratic ways and means, okay, as a general rule. We're not talking about the secular Muslim and a modern Muslim. They want this type of governance because it gives them, they can smoke, drink, do everything to violate the Sharia and still claim that they are Muslims. And we know that the democratic governance allows the Tubab and their governments to indirectly rule us. This is a contention why we have a jihad as well, because our Mujahideen group, the herdsmen, the Musina group, and so forth and so on, said, no, we want Islamic governance. Our brothers in Sudan, the RSF, they said they want Islamic governance. They don't want civilian rule because it doesn't work. See? Our non-Fulani brethren contend that the Sahelian states, in particular, and African states in general, Sharia law is legalized barbarism. They feel that Sharia is no good. They think it's a license to kill them and suppress Muslims, which is not true. Even if you have an area where they're doing it, they're against the Sharia law. Because if you look at the history, and our prophets gave us the lead, and our greatest scholars have given us guidance in this regard. Under our rule, you have fire worshipers, you have persons worshiping juju or ifa or orissa or whatever the situation may be. They worshiping in peace, because this is called for under the Sharia. See, so, but they consider that because they have bad examples of those who are ruling, quote unquote, under the Sharia, being heavy-handed against them, forcing them into Islam, or going after them because they're Christians or Hebrews. This is wrong. This is not the Sharia. And this is why we have this problem between us. What is the constellation of the Fulani Emirate? Brothers and sisters, one of the things, and you heard me talk about this is the demise of Boko Haram. If the herdsmen and the Messina group and the others come to power in the RSF, it's lights out for Boko Haram. It's lights out. No one has been able to defeat them. The only one who's been keeping them at bay right now are the herdsmen. You notice that? That's true. The only one who's been keeping them at bay right now is other Muslims. And again, you heard my argument. Crisis like this, you need Muslims to deal with Muslims, and you need black faces who are strong in Islam to go among the brothers, especially of Boko Haram, to deal with them. But since that has not happened, and since Boko Haram has branched off into different factions, and then they begin to kill some herdsmen, it's been on ever since that. And they've been driving Boko Haram out of areas. They run them into Nigeria. They run into the Fulani Messina group there. They go there to kick their butt. They come back into northern Nigeria, and then now they're starting to go into to northern part of Cameroons. They in there encounter again herdsmen, Mujahideen, and they fight them. They keep moving back and forth. And this is why they're a formidable threat, especially after the debacle of kidnapping all those hundreds of schoolgirls and stuff like that. It brought down a wrath from Muslims and non-Muslims alike on what they're doing, because they had no business doing that under the Sharia law. Our wealth in the Fulbe community is our Islamic beliefs. We've had this since the 7th century, and we've been strong in it. Our greatest scholars have been Fulani. We have empires. We had great statesmen, Fulani. We have statesmen today, still Fulani. Herding of cattle, providing milk and meat to the Fula communities and other brethren, protecting our traditional grazing lands. I go back again to this issue, brothers and sisters. Paramount, the grazing lands, they got to be protected. We can quell most of the violence by restoring those grasslands and keeping the balance of this ecosystem of the farmers producing, so they can produce the sweet potato and the cassava and the dashing, okay, stuff that we love to eat, okay, rice and all that. We need them. But we also need the Fulbe community as well. We need their meat. We need their milk and their milk products. We need the leather and stuff like that coming from our Fulani brothers. This system has been working well until the 2000s, of course, and this crisis has erupted. The final solution to the Fulani jihad, I believe this now, is a Quranic state in the Sahel. I believe that, brothers and sisters. I think it's time to give this, because as long as our governments are running under democratic ways and means, you're not going to bring the herdsmen, the bandits, the Messina group, and these other Mujahideen groups to the table. It's going to continue to be fighting, because they're not going to drop the Quran and the Sharia law to live under democratic ways and means. And then when they come to the table, there's a two Bob standing behind them. They're not going to tolerate that anymore. They had enough. You see what happened in Sudan the other day. You heard me talk about that. They just threw out this This guy from they brought to the UN, they threw him out. See, so this should give you some impetus to understand why I'm talking what I'm saying. Secondly, the solution to this jihad is protecting grazing preserves. Again, you heard me say this 1,000 times. The strengthening security apparatus against the marauders. We got to have something, brothers and sisters, to stop the marauders, to come in and go after the Fulani communities, the innocent, and our nomadic brothers who take cattle back and forth east to the west and are doing nothing but doing as their forefathers have done. They have manned the Sahel, the Savanna regions, and the Sahara, and they have to be protected. We have to have security for them. Now we also have to disband the Fulani bandits. That's right, brothers and sisters, because they are the impetus on why many are turning to ultra violence against us, because what the bandits have done, they've kidnapped some of their kinfolk, they kidnapped some of their wives and their children and held them for ransom. And then they've been paid off, and then that emboldened them even more to kidnap more. They have to be disbanded in order to stop all of the stuff that's going on. We have to disband them. But we have to have the security apparatus that gives the promise to the herdsmen and to the bandits that their communities will be protected. That's not happening. But we need some assurances. We need the free movement of Fulani herders and nomads. Right now across West Africa, we're having problems. Ghana, other places, they're going after the herdsmen. They said, look, this is not your land, and they're going after them. We know that. So we need them to have free movement. They should not be required to sit there with passports and have somebody, Western government, to deny them visas just to take their cattle. The cattle don't understand that. The cattle also have their time clock. They know when they see their handlers begin to go to the east, the cattle know as well that they got water and grazing lands. They know by memory. They're not going to understand when the herdsmen stopping them because there's a visa. They don't understand that. See? So this is why they have to have free movement to let them go. Who have they hurt? The premise here is you leave them alone, they leave you alone. I've said this a 1,000 times as well. You leave the herders alone, and this will quell a lot of the problems. Now, number 4, this is important, brothers and sisters. We have to protect our other brothers, our Hebrew brothers and our Christian brothers who own farms. The compensation for the farmers who have lost farmland due to this implementation. Okay, meaning that when we give the grasslands and we say, okay, look, we've had problems with the climate and now we need some of the farmland. So we compensate our brothers so that way they don't end up in the poorhouse, so to speak. You understand? Maybe they have to give up part of their farm to grazing land. So the government comes in to compensate them and say, look, we'll move you to another area. You see, this is the composition we need because we need them to grow. We don't need them to be stopped and interdicted and killed off. No, we need them. So we put them in another area so they can continue on. Growing the cassava, we need that. The bananas and dashin and stuff like that. We need all that. In rice, we need that. So we should compensate those farmers, our brothers, the Hebrew brothers and our Christian brothers, and compensate them for their losses. And as you heard me say again, the grazing land preserves, the Fulani herdsmen representation in the government. We need to have this. Now, Sheikh Gumi has said this 1,000 times as well. You need to have representation from these Mujahideen groups in the government so they can stop misunderstandings. Because if you have them integral part as a lobby group of some sort inside the government, they can go to the Fulani groups to talk to them. We don't have that, and we need that. This is another way we can quell some of the violence. It's no different than the United States. In the United States, we have Jewish lobby to look out for their interests, right? Inside America, we have Black lobby as well, looking after the African American communities. They're much weaker than the Jewish lobby, but still, you understand, we have Hispanics and so for Asians, we have those lobbies as well to protect the interests of the Asian people. See, we need this in the West African governments in particular. okay, to have this representation in there so they can give to fully understand, the government can fully understand our ways and means, and then to protect us as well. The Fulani need security forces and police in the Fula areas. Now, meaning we should have Fulani policemen policing Fulani. Not bringing the Igbo, not bringing in the doggone from Mali, not bringing in the Hausa brothers, because we have that already, and we have conflicts because they're heavy-handed, because they know they're Fula, so they don't have that regard. We should have Fula policemen. It's akin to like some places in the United States where you have cities where they're chocolate cities where most residents are black, so the police are black. That way we stop some of the stuff that's happening. When you bring in the Igbo and you put them in a 100% Fulani area, this has been a recipe of disaster. We've had raids, we've had unauthorized killings, and so forth and so on. See, so we should have Fulani managing Fulani at this time to quell the violence. In the Savannah regions, recognition of Fulani rights to exist and preserve their way of life. Because they're under the table, they're going to the Tubab, asking the Tubab to train their forces to exterminate us. We need to stop that. We should have Fulani rights, grant them their rights, let them have their rights. Everything was working okay until this explosion happened in 2000. They were grazing, going back across the Sahara for centuries upon centuries. Okay, it was working well. The farmers had their situation. It was working. They had a couple clashes here and there, but they worked it out. So we have to have the recognition of Fulani rights and abandoning the forced removal of our herdsmen to take the Fulani and their cattle, and you move them into an area that is dead where they can't graze and water their cattle. It's a recipe for jihad, and this has happened. So we have to stop that. We need to enter into talks with the Sahel states to re-educate them and ease their fears among them. Because right now they're sitting on pins and needles because they know the history of the Fulani, the Futafula community, and their jihad. And they know now what has happened. A lot of that is their faults because they listened to the Tubab Western governments who came and told them to start to go after the Fulani people in particular, and Afro-Arabs and Afro-Tuareg, as you heard me say. And it's now you see what has happened. We got a full-fledged major jihad going on now through the Sahel region because they listen to the wrong people. So we have to go back to re-educate them and to ease the fear among them because they seeing now Fulani horsemen coming to take them out. And they see the herdsmen who they are scared of. They see the herdsmen coming in and they're starting to take care of business, and nobody seemed to find them after they kill 40, 50, 60, 70 people and they disappear in the night. They go attack militias. They go attack police stations. They attack military convoys, and they do their job, and then they leave and nobody can find them. So they have fears. Those fears led to bringing in the Russians. That fear led to them to bring in the Americans. That fear led them to bring in the French troops. If the fear led them to bring in the Tubak from Britain. And none of it worked. So we have to ease that. As long as they quell the militias, the rogue government forces, this is a start. And the Tubak mercenaries who are behind them, we've got to get them thrown out, brothers and sisters. There's no doubt about it. They have no business being here. Now, yes, trade. The Russians come in with trade, yes, because we don't have natural gas. We don't have a lot of things in wheat. The Russians are the world's greatest supplier of wheat. Morocco can attest to that. A lot of people get wheat from them. So we have that barter between us. There's nothing wrong Islamically. This is approved Islamically to have this type of thing with disbelievers. We can have that, no problem. But we should not keep them and their mercenaries in our countries. No, and have military bases. You see what has happened. This is not good. They don't belong here for that. To have trade, yes, to have the delegations and so forth, have the embassy, yes. But to come here and put their bases here so they can fight black faces? No, we got to put a stop to that. So, brothers and sisters, I gave you this part of it now, and I'm about ready to close here because it's time for prayer here as well. And now I suggest that you review my tapes again, those who are interested. And brothers and sisters, I have to reemphasize this again to you. The Fulbe community and our other African brothers, you should be concerned about the Sahel region, because you're sitting in LA right now. You say, hey, you know, I don't care. I'm not Fulani. You know, I got my DNA. I learned now I'm Compelli from Liberia. But one day you may want to travel because you can't stand in the United States no more. And you may want to travel in West Africa. And all of West Africa is in flames. Jihad all over the place. Killings all over the place. You should be mindful of what your brothers are doing there. And all of us should be trying to put our heads together to put an end to this. So don't take the apathy of saying, well, since I'm in LA, it doesn't bother me. One day you may want to come out here. See, so you should be very, very careful of what you wish for. And because we need to stop this situation at hand. So my brothers and sisters, I gave you these recommendations. And I believe, and I'll say this last recommendation, I will close. We had one of our greatest scholars of Islam. He's from Mauritania, Sheikh Dudu. Okay, him. About a year ago, because of the violence that's happening all over the place, he called for the Muslim governments in particular to go back to the Sharia. I echo his thoughts. The Muslim governments should rule under the Sharia law, not partial, fully, because then we can bring the rights back to the people. I concur with him fully. He urged the governments to bring back the Sharia because the Sharia gives power to the people. That's right. Democratic ways of being does not. If you think it does, look at why we have problems in the Sudan, all across Egypt, everywhere else, because you have a segment of the population that gains wealth, major wealth, and the rest of the population stays poor. This has been the combination of the democratic ways of being. The top echelon of people stay wealthy and get filthy rich, while us down here below, we stay poor. This is the democratic ways and means. Under the Sharia, the richest of us, we have to pay what we call zakat. We take a percentage, not like the American government where you have loopholes where rich Jewish merchants and Tubac merchants and black merchants and Asian merchants who make millions and millions, they have loopholes where they don't have to pay no taxes. We don't have that. We don't have that in the Sharia law. You are equipped to pay a certain percentage from your wealth every year. This wealth is turned back to the community. See, major difference between us and democratic ways of means. So the wealth is keep regenerating through the Muslim community. So I believe that we should go back, and we have Muslim presidents, even if the lands are not fully Muslim, you should try to implement at least the banking system. That way it's fair, and start to use zakat, because if you get the riches of us who have money and we start to pay that zakat, do you know what that will do to the economy? The people who are sitting on the streets, you know, all of this add up. When we return that money back to the people, what do? They go to the stores and to our souk, to the market to buy, don't they? They come to the Fulani to get more meat and milk because they receive their zakat from the government. See, this is why the Islamic governance is better. So that zakat is turned over to the government and to our officials. They get this money and they start to divvy it back to the needy. They take this money now to go buy what? Meat, fish, cassava, bananas. They go to feed their families. This is why we need this system implemented. And I agree with our great Sheikh Islam, Sheikh Dula out of Mauritania, who echoed these thoughts by saying we should return that so we can empower people again. I concur with that. So, okay, my dear brothers and sisters, Inshallah, I have another segment of this sometime next week, inshallah ta'ala. And I'm hoping that you got something out of this. And let me see here before I go. I got to acknowledge some of my brothers here. King, how you doing, my dear brother? Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, my dear brother. Appreciate that and your prayers and your thoughts. My dear brother, Jalo, thank you, my dear brother. Thank you very much. My dear sister, Amina, wa alaikum salam, rahmatullah katu. My dear sister, Amina, thank you very much. And my dear brother here, Ibrahim Fulani, interesting name, brother. Anjaraba. Thank you, my dear brother, for your wishes and everything like this. And brothers and sisters, those who are supporting me and listening to my talks is greatly, immensely appreciated. For an old man like me, this is more worthy than a plate of gold, believe me. When I have our brothers and sisters acknowledge their elders, this is a great thing. This is African custom. This is Islamic custom. This is the way it should be. And I'm honored that I have your respect and that you're listening to me and you're spreading the word around. And I'm hoping, my brothers and sisters, that I do get a few more people to subscribe to me so they can listen to talk, especially our Fulani brothers in the United States. You need to be brought up to speed about your community here in Africa. You have to be brought up to speed, in this, because you cannot say you're Fulani and then yet you have nothing to do with Fulani. I've heard this in the United States. They'll get their DNA, they find out they're Fulani, and they do nothing about that. They don't learn anything about their heritage. You see, this is not right. We have to preserve our rights. And my brother Diallo, thank you, my dear brother, again. And Quad Almighty, that's the interesting name you got there, brother. Anjarama to you, my dear brother. And okay, my dear brothers and sisters, I must leave and depart now. I got to go make my prayer and Salat to Asr. And I've been long a little bit today. But thank you, my dear brothers and sisters, for giving me this honor that you're listening to me and you have your well wishes for me. And I have my well wishes for you. Anjarama, Salaam Alaikum, Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.